What is it like to be Dolly Parton every night?
I'll say it is the greatest honor of my life and my career. I don't feel like I am being Dolly, but I do feel like my goal is to channel her and to be as invisible as possible so that her spirit and her joy and inspiring kind of infectious hopefulness and spirit like just comes through me. So I don't try to impersonate her. I my goal is to channel her. And I think because I've done her voice for so long, literally my whole life since I was a little girl, I've been able to kind of just, click into that kind of accent and scratch and crackle and her vibrato as a singer. I don't think about it. I don't try to be her. But to see the audience's reaction and to hear them and to feel their gratefulness to be in the presence of Dolly is extremely moving. And that's my number one goal. I want people to feel like when they were with us, they got to see Dolly Parton in a real life way.
Yeah, and I mean, you get the whole Dolly experience. You've got all the hits in here. So it's like the first time ever, isn't it, that we get such an expanse of Dolly.
Yes, and it's not a biomusical, it is not about Dolly. I thought when I conceived of this show many, many years ago, I had this idea because I'm an actor. Play a lot of different parts, but I always had this kind of knack or ability that would make people smile. And my husband is a wonderful director and creates new musicals. And so we were lucky enough to get a PPP grant during the pandemic where they said you can write anything you want. And Gabe was the one that said, let's write a two-person show. My idea was it should always be about somebody else's journey, and Uber fans' fantasy friendship with Dolly. And I thought the best way to show Dolly Parton was to see her in action, what kind of friend she would be. And I hope when you see it, you'll agree. I really think that this is how she'd be in real life. If by magic she could come to life in somebody's attic who's in isolation, I really believe she would treat her fan in this way as just such a great listener, offering, humor and tough love and trying to inspire by, opening up their thought to their highest self. I mean, it's just I don't know. So you're seeing a play with a really wonderful story that I think is incredibly relatable, as well as hearing her greatest hits, sometimes in the context of a book musical and sometimes more in concert. And sometimes the audience sings along, sometimes they're just listening. So you really do get a full experience. It's not what I think people might be surprised because we really are not focusing on telling Dolly's life story. We're really trying to show her how she would be with another person.
That's
Yes.
what it's all about. I mean, you almost want her as your best mate. She has been the soundtrack to pretty much so many people's lives, hasn't she, throughout the
Uh,
years?
She has, and I've heard her say that she almost, I think, sorry, I get very emotional when I talk about her, but she almost is like everybody's aunt
Yeah.
or aunt, as you would say. A person in our lives that's just got our back, that we know, that is in our world, and she means so much to people. And I think her biomusical, which she's writing, by the way, she's in preparations for that. It will be a wonderful show, and I think there is a need for that. It's just that when we wrote our show, that isn't what we conceived, and we knew that was already happening. So we wanted to write something unique that we thought we would do, and that she would give us permission to do, which she has. So our lawyer went to our Zoom reading in May of 2020 and said, I think this is totally up Dolly's alley. I think the messaging is spot on and I think she'd love it. And she did. So she gave me the permission to play her. She gave us the worldwide grand rights to all of her music. It's a big deal.
That
Yeah.
must be amazing to get that stamp of approval from
Yeah.
Dolly
Can you
herself.
imagine a person that you've idolized your entire life and hearing that feedback? I mean, really, I feel like yeah, it's just been the greatest honor, truly.
Yeah, and you've been playing this role, haven't you, since 2022 it first came to the station. You've been all across the US.
We went to 6 different regional theaters in the US developing our show, and the script, we always worked on the script. When you write a musical, it's really hard to get right. on the page. You have to play it in front of an audience. You have to find the chemistry with your other actor and figure out that dynamic and tone. How do you create a character who's going through such a tumultuous time, who's depressed and hopeless, and make him likable? Well,
Yeah.
the way is to cast somebody like Stevie Webb, who is absolutely brilliant comedian. And, he's a comedian, a failed comedian, a kind of a down and out person who doesn't have a lot of faith in himself. And you have to, it was hard to find that balance. And every actor that's played this part has done a wonderful job. But we as writers had to craft it and figure out, how do we find the tone and balance so that this is something that the audience loves to watch, and they do. And we feel very grateful. So yes, we toured the US, and then a producer, Simon Friend, flew over from England to see us at Goodspeed Opera House, where I was playing this part with a wonderful American actor named Matthew Rhys, a Broadway actor that I had done a TV show with. He was playing it, and he did a great job. But they wanted to set the show in England, so we had to recast, and we found, I don't know if you know Stevie Webb, but you should.
Yeah.
He is brilliant. And boy, do we have fun every night. We have great chemistry. He makes it a pleasure to play off of. And we are having a wonderful time. The show is about trusting, letting go of your ideas of how it's supposed to be, being grateful for what you have, and knowing that everything you have is within you. And Dolly is not God. Dolly is not an angel. Dolly in our show represents our highest consciousness, that little part of our brain that goes, it's okay. It's okay. It's going to be okay. That part of our thought, when we're in the middle of a turmoil, that part of us that goes, wait a minute, it's okay. The calm part, that's what Dolly represents in our show. And I think
Definitely.
that's why the audience jumps to their feet at the end of the show, because Dolly wrote Light of a Clear Blue Morning, which is everything's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. That's the refrain. And the audience gobbles that message up because it's something that we all long to hear. And that, I think, is my biggest honor doing the show, is I'm part of a message that means a lot to people. And we've gotten just lovely emails, and people DM me on Instagram, direct message me on Instagram, telling me what the show meant to them and that they identify with Kevin. And that's the thing. Kevin is this very identifiable, relatable character. Even if you're not, a
Yeah.
40-year-old gay man comic in the throes of a breakup and isolating in your parents' attic in England, that doesn't matter. What you relate to is the sense that we all had, where we had to give up our plans, our life, our career. Some relationships ended. We had to move. We had to let go of what we thought was going to happen. We all collectively had that experience. And that's why we said it during COVID. It is not a COVID musical. It's nothing to do with COVID. It just is a symbol, a wonderful circumstance to set our play in, so that we're all on even ground.
It's gonna be a fantastic feast for the eyes with the costumes. There's gotta be a lot of rhinestones there on display.
Oh,
I
you
mean,
bet. You know it.
fabulous, yeah? What are they like?
It's
What
so
can we expect?
It's so funny because when I leave the stage door, if there are people there waiting for me, they never know that it's me. I mean, you're looking at me right now. I'm a very plain Jane person, I think, but it's all smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of padding and corsets and blonde wigs and long eyelashes and lots of glitter and makeup, and I clean up pretty good, I think. But Dolly is such a beauty. I love dressing like her and doing this part. But everything is, she's kind of a work of art too. So she's not quite a natural. This is a confection, a creation. So it's been a blast to do. And yeah, we have 4 different beautiful costumes by Paul Wills, 4 different beautiful wigs. My wonderful dresser, Holly, maintains those wigs and is just my best friend in the show. And we have a blast, and I absolutely love it. My era of Dolly that I love the most is that late 70s, early 80s, that when she's still super like the juicy, kind of voluptuous, that era of that early 80s is really my time when I fell in love with her. And so that is the era that we're mostly sharing. But she's kind of an ageless being. So you never
Absolutely.
know, she could be 30 or 75, it's like she's always Dolly. So I think we kind of play with that a little bit, that I feel like I'm the right age to play an ageless being because I'm in the middle, it's like,
Yeah.
she just is. So,
Oh,
yeah.
it's gonna be fabulous. I can't wait. Leave us with some words of wisdom from Dolly.
Oh, words of wisdom from Dolly. Well, I think one of the lines in our show that actually Dolly did not write, I heard in an acting lecture workshop that I did many, many years ago. Joanne Woodward said, "You've got to stop looking in mirrors and start looking out windows." And I put that in the show. Everything that Dolly says in her show was either something she has literally said or we know she would say or has said in other words. But this line became a real kind of through line. And a couple of the audience members who have seen the show have gotten tattoos of this little saying, but it's important, right? Stop looking in mirrors and start looking out windows. Don't be so self-absorbed that you're blind to the beauty around you, to the opportunity that is literally at your door. And everybody has access to that. And we should, that's those are the words of wisdom I think Dolly would say, even though she didn't literally say that.